A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I were out for a drive, and I thought that we were on the highway a few miles down from the antique store we found last year, where there was an oil painting of some geese that was just like the one my mother made when I was 10. And I knew that if I asked my husband if that was the store we were close to using that description, he would have looked at me like I was out of my mind. I also had no idea what the actual name of that antique store was. So I just kept my mouth shut, and then a couple miles later, my husband pointed and commented, "Hey, that's that antique store we stopped at." So we were both on the same page, but not using the same terms to describe it. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle, and half the time I have no idea what thrift store or antique store I am shopping at. Do you call these places by their proper names, or do you use vague descriptions? Let me know in the comments below. Most of the time, when my daughter and I are planning a shopping trip, we will use the actual name of the place. There are a couple of places, if I tell her I am going to the Churchy thrift store on Main Street, she will know exactly what store I am talking about. I don't know if that store even has a name. I have no idea what charity they're affiliated with. I just think of them as the one that tends to have lots of neat vintage and needlework stuff. Union Gospel Mission and Salvation Army. There is one of each in the town where I shop. I occasionally go to both of them. I don't have room in my brain for some reason to keep track of which is which. Despite the number of times I have stood outside the door, looked at the sign, and made a point of figuring out which of the two I was actually at. Some shops we call by their given names. Some shops we call by their names of the streets they're on. Sometimes we've described them by something we found at that shop that one time, which goes back to, yeah, that antique store with the oil painting that used the same pattern my mom used when I was 10, which no one on this planet except for me would link that description with that store. Mom would know which goose pattern I meant, not the thrift store I meant, or antique store I meant. My husband had been in the antique store, but would have been completely oblivious to the toll painted goose. When I was a kid, my mom and my grandma would describe a lot of stores by the name of the street they were on. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized that the thrift store they called Powell was on Powell Street. It wasn't named Powell, it was named Finders Keepers. And my daughter and I use a combination of actual store names, street names, that other thrift store up the highway on the opposite side from the first thrift store. And somehow, miraculously, we almost always are able to figure out which store the other one is talking about. I'm curious, do you and your thrifting buddies use the actual names of thrift stores, or do you have nicknames based on shared experiences? I guess that's what that would be. I've just really been thinking about it the past few weeks and wondering why we describe the stores the way we do and if it even matters. The one, I think it is Union Gospel Mission, one of the two I can't keep track of. It's just much easier to say the thrift store off Lancaster in the building that used to be Michael's, even though I know how many more words that is and how many more mental gymnastics it takes to figure out what store I'm talking about. But if I tell my daughter that or the boys that, they know where I mean. And honestly, I don't think anyone cares because thrift stores are fun and we just enjoy going to the thrift store. Thanks for watching. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. Let me know if you saw something here in the video that caught your eye or if you've got any thoughts on thrift stores and their names. There's also that one at the coast that has the wall painted abandon hope all ye who enter here. I'm sure it has a name. But since I don't think I'll be going back to that one, I also don't think it matters what the name is. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back with you with more videos soon.